Ever feel like you're kind of stuck in this loop, grappling with those same old dilemmas about what to do with your life?
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Well, get this. Today's deep dive might just offer a fresh perspective. We're diving into Chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, nice.
And let me tell you, this ancient text, it's got some surprisingly relevant wisdom. Like, seriously, it's all about navigating those tricky life choices.
It's true. This chapter really gets to the core of it all. Action, intention, the whole shebang. What does it mean to live a life with, actual purpose?
Exactly. It all starts with Arjuna, this warrior dude, facing a major moral crisis. And where is he? Right there on the battlefield. Talk about pressure.
It's intense.
So he turns to Krishna, his charioteer, who, oh, by the way, also happens to be like a divine incarnation.
Of course.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, warriors, battlefields, what does this have to do with me? But trust me on this. This chapter, it unpacks these universal truths. We're talking action, inaction, finding clarity in the middle of all the chaos.
Which, let's be honest, is something we can probably all relate to.
Totally. Is taking a step back always avoiding responsibility? Or could it actually be sometimes like the smartest move?
Yeah.
It's a tricky one, right? This whole action versus inaction thing.
Yeah.
But Krishna, he makes it super clear. True liberation doesn't come from just checking out.
Nope, not at all. In fact, there's this one verse, verse 4, that really drives this point home.
Oh, yeah. What does it say?
It basically says you can't escape the effects of action by just refusing to act. It's like you can't win a race by staying put.
Right. You got to be in it to win it, as they say.
Exactly. True freedom, it comes from really understanding the nature of action itself.
So we're all part of this big cosmic dance of action then.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not.
We are. We can't escape it.
But, and here's where it gets even more interesting. You ready for this?
Hit me with it.
It's not just about what we do. It's about why. Our intention. That motivation behind our actions.
Yes, that's what holds the real power.
That's wild.
It is. And that actually brings us to one of the central concepts in this chapter, this idea of action as a form of sacrifice, or yanya.
Yeah.
Yanya, yeah. Now, before you go picturing, these big, elaborate rituals.
Like animal sacrifices, all that.
Exactly. Remember that the Gita, it's all about practical wisdom. Here, yanya, it means dedicating our actions to something bigger than ourselves.
Real.
And in this specific context, the text is talking about dedicating those actions to Vishnu.
Vishnu. Got it.
But the principle, it's universal.
I see. So it's less about who and more about the dedication itself.
Right. It's that shift in perspective from what's in it for me to how can I contribute to something larger? And that is a game changer.
Wow. So by approaching our actions as these offerings, we're kind of freeing ourselves from always needing a specific result.
Exactly. You got it.
But that brings up an interesting question, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
if we're supposed to act with this selfless intention, what about Krishna himself? He's the supreme being, right?
Right.
Shouldn't he be above all this action stuff?
That's where we get into probably one of the most fascinating paradoxes in this whole chapter. Because even though Krishna is completely, totally liberated, he's always acting. He is. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
So it's not like, becoming totally passive.
Yeah.
Like sit on a mountaintop somewhere. Detaching from the world completely. That's not really the point.
Not quite. It's more nuanced than that, for sure. See, it's about recognizing, there are these forces at play beyond our full comprehension, and so our role. It's to act, but to act with intention and clarity within that larger cosmic dance.
I love that. The cosmic dance. So well said.
And it's a great example of this? King Janaka. He's actually mentioned in verse 20, if you want to look it up.
Oh, yeah. King Janaka. Okay, for anyone who needs a quick refresher, he was this, legendary king, known for being super wise, a great ruler, and on top of that, he was spiritually liberated.
The full package.
Total rock star.
Yeah.
He figured out how to be a successful CEO while, also achieving enlightenment. Not an easy balance, I'm guessing.
Not at all. And here's the really fascinating part. Even though King Janaka, he was personally free, right, from those karmic bonds.
He'd reached that level.
Exactly. He still continued to rule his kingdom with, total dedication.
Why would he do that? If he was already liberated, wouldn't he be, off the hook? Karmically speaking, of course.
It's a great question, and it shows how much we tend to link liberation with, escape. It's about getting out of doing stuff.
Yeah, checking out completely.
Exactly. But Janaka, he understood. True liberation. It isn't about shirking your responsibilities. It's not about saying, peace out, I'm done.
It's about showing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And acting from this place of clarity, of purpose, for the well-being of others.
So he was choosing to play his part in this grand scheme of things, even though technically he didn't have to. Oh, I love that.
It's a powerful example.
It's like he was saying, look, I could go live in a cave somewhere, meditate all day long.
Escape from it all.
Right. But there's work to be done, people to serve, a whole kingdom to run. There's such a sense of purpose in that, even if it might seem kind of, I don't know, paradoxical at first.
Absolutely. And it brings us to, I think, a really crucial point in this whole chapter. What is it? What holds us back from consistently acting with that same kind of clarity, that sense of purpose? What gets in the way?
Okay, yeah, spill the tea. What's the culprit here?
Well, according to verse 37, it's lust.
Whoa, hold on. Now, before everyone listening gets the wrong idea.
Right. Let's unpack that a bit.
We got to clarify. Because we're not just talking about, romantic desire or physical desire. This isn't like a lecture on celibacy or something.
Not at all. In this context, lust, think of it more like a metaphor, a big one.
Okay, so what does it really mean then?
It's about craving, any kind of craving, attachment. That feeling of, I need this thing, whatever it is, and if I don't get it...
Game over.
Basically, that feeling of being completely consumed by wanting something, that's the lust we're talking about here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know that voice all too well.
It's a powerful voice.
And it's usually not very rational.
Rarely.
Yeah.
And, the Gita uses these super vivid analogies to illustrate how this lust, this clinging to desire, how it actually operates.
What kind of analogies?
Okay, so it compares lust to smoke obscuring a fire, dust covering a mirror, and even, get this, a womb, confining an unborn child.
Whoa, okay. Those are some pretty intense images. I'm really curious about these. What's the deeper meaning there?
Yeah.
Behind the smoke, the dust, the womb, there's a lot to unpack.
There is. Let's start with the smoke. Think about it. Smoke can completely obscure a fire.
Oh, totally.
But the fire's power, the light, the heat, it's still there.
It's just hidden.
Exactly, clouded over by all that smoke.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It's the same with our true nature. The Gita often describes it as being, radiant, pure, like a flame.
I like that.
But our desires, our attachments, all that clinging, it's like smoke. It obscures that inner radiance, makes it hard to see clearly, hard to connect with that essential part of ourselves.
So someone who's totally caught up in external desires, chasing after things, always wanting more, like that smoky fire, the potential for clarity, for wisdom, it's there, but it's all clouded over by all that wanting. What about the dusty mirror analogy? That one feels super relatable too.
Right. So the mirror, it represents our mind. And when it's covered in, all that dust, the dust of desires and attachments, it can't reflect reality accurately.
We're looking through a distorted lens, basically.
Exactly. We overreact to things. We make impulsive decisions because our perception is skewed by all that dust. We're not seeing things as they truly are.
We're seeing a distorted version of reality.
Yes. And the womb analogy.
I have a feeling this one's not as cozy as it sounds.
You got it. So the womb, as you said, it represents that state of being like totally identified with our desires to the point where we feel trapped.
Confined. Limited.
Yes, and unable to experience the fullness of life.
Like we're stuck in that confined space, just craving, grasping, not able to see that there's this whole universe of experience waiting for us.
Right.
Beyond those limitations.
Precisely. And the way out, well, the Gita suggests it starts with recognizing these patterns within ourselves.
Ooh, getting real deep here. I like it.
Correct. I see the smoke. Clear away the dust and ultimately grow beyond the confines of that metaphorical womb.
So how do we actually break free? Because it's not about like pretending we don't have desires, right?
Right.
We're not all trying to become monks here.
Exactly. And that's honestly one of the things I appreciate most about the Gita's approach. It's so grounded, like it really gets human nature.
It does.
We are wired for desire. That's part of the deal. It's not about denying that. It's more about becoming more conscious of those desires, seeing them clearly for what they are. And then we get to make a choice.
Okay, so instead of just getting swept away by that initial hit of, I want.
Right.
We hit pause. We maybe even get a little curious, like, what's really driving this impulse? And that's where this whole karma yoga thing comes in.
100%. It's not about suppressing or denying those natural human impulses. It's about learning to direct them more skillfully. Think of it this way. Imagine you have all this raw energy, this potent force inside you.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
You can let it run wild. Or you can harness it, channel it towards something meaningful.
Instead of that hamster wheel of desire we're talking about, something more aligned. with our values, our purpose.
And that shift, it's empowering.
It feels pretty empowering, yeah.
Because it means we're not just, tossed around in the waves at the mercy of every little desire. We have a choice to act from a place of, greater awareness.
Makes me think about those verses, let me see, I think it's 42 and 43, where Krishna talks about this hierarchy, the senses, the mind, the intellect, and then ultimately the soul. It's like this invitation to climb. Like we're on this ladder of self-awareness, moving beyond those knee-jerk reactions. And tapping into something way deeper.
I love that analogy. Because it's not that we get rid of the senses or the mind or any of it. It's about recognizing we are not just our desires or even our thoughts or our emotions. There's this deeper self, a truer self that we can connect with.
And when we connect with that deeper self, then what?
Then we start to see clearly which actions are truly aligned with our well-being, and which ones are probably going to keep us stuck in that cycle of craving and grasping.
So if we're really taking all this wisdom to heart, what would you say is like the key takeaway? The thing that might fundamentally shift how our listeners are approaching, everything, their lives, their choices.
It's this. True freedom. It doesn't mean being completely desireless. It means learning to act in alignment with our highest good, even when, maybe especially when, we're feeling that pull of lust in all its sneaky little forms.
So the real challenge then, and maybe this is something for all of us to reflect on, how do we spot those manifestations of lust in our own lives? What are the dusty mirrors, the confining wombs that we might not even realize are holding us back?
That's the real work. It's a lifelong practice. But the good news, every time we catch ourselves getting caught up in that cycle, every time we pause, question, act from a place of, greater awareness, we're moving in the right direction.
We're fanning those flames of inner wisdom.
Yes.
Clearing away the dust, stepping out of those self-imposed limitations. That's a pretty inspiring way to look at it.
It is inspiring, and it's a good reminder. The Bhagavad Gita, it's full of this ancient wisdom, but ultimately, it's a practical guide.
To actually living.
Yes. Living a more purposeful life, a more fulfilling life. It's not just about, philosophical concepts. It's about showing up in the world with more awareness, more intention, and ultimately, more freedom.
I like that. More awareness. More intention, more freedom. And on that note, dear listeners, we'll leave you to continue your own exploration. Until next time, keep diving deep.